Alright, so, people are always asking me, how I met 2Chainz, how we decided to come up with Escobar, and, how all of that came about. So, pretty much, everybody knows that I already had the Hookah Hideaway. I've had that spot for about 3 years. So, after about 1.5 years of being in business, I had saved my money and kind of felt like I had the blueprint down and wanted to open up a second location. So, I had always wanted to open up a spot on Peter Street for as long as I had moved here. So started going over to Peter Street and putting in applications and things of that nature. I had also got back to the point that I could travel and kind of enjoy life. So as soon as I finished putting these applications in, I had took a trip to Jamaica. Over there kicking it, having a good time. And I come back. As I come back, I'm going through customs to get back into the States. And pretty much I'm putting my passport up through the little machine. And a couple agents come up to me. And they grabbed me by the arms. They're like, are you Miss Dillard? And I was like, yeah, that's me. They're like, okay, come with us. So I go with them. We're going into like this back room, and they're like, you have a warrant for your arrest in Tennessee. And I'm like, okay. And I used to live in Nashville, Tennessee, so I knew it wasn't like just totally out of the possibility that I could have a warrant in Tennessee. They were like, yeah, it's for check fraud. So, I'm getting more information on it, and, I'm remembering that, from my past, I used to have a newspaper company and publish various newspapers throughout the state, throughout the country. And one of my employees, he basically had like stole the business from me right up under my nose right when I first moved to Atlanta. And so, anyway, that caused the last 2 checks that I had wrote to the printing company to bounce. And the amount ended up turning it into a felony. So in order to get their money, they no longer had any contact with me. This is 5 years later. So they decided to put a warrant out for me, see if they can, catch up with me or whatnot. So I'm like asking the cop, I'm like, okay, well, so what does this mean? It's like, you're going to go to Clayton County Jail? I'm like, man, why I got to go to Clayton County? Everybody know that's like the worst jail in Atlanta. So it's just like, okay, well, no, I'm going to get out of here. It's a little different story when you don't have a bond and you can't just bond yourself out. So waiting on them to come get me, and day after day goes by. I'm getting a little more frustrated. So one day I'm talking to one of my homeboys on the phone, and he has my cell phone, kind of handling some of my business affairs. And so I'm like, hey man, check on that spot that I had applied for, on Peter Street for me, and see what they talking about. So he was like, oh yeah, he actually called yesterday. So we checked the voicemail, and he was basically just saying for me to give him a call. So I'm like telling all the other inmates in the jail, I'm like, man, be quiet, I'm about to make a business call, So my homeboy, he called him on 3-way, and I was like, hey, I'm just calling to check on that spot that I had applied for, a couple weeks ago, how's it looking? And so he was like, yeah, they really don't want to do a lounge there in that spot, so I, you probably not going to end up getting that spot, but man, Snoop, we really need somebody like you on Peter Street. I'm really trying to get, more blacks over there, more black businesses, even though it's a really hard area for a black business to open up. He was like, I don't think you're going to be able to get that spot. He was like, but there is another spot that's available, it needs a lot of work. And it's actually owned by, a really famous rapper, that's from here, that's from Atlanta. He was like, and he would want to actually go into business with you. He wants to, own, some of the business as well. And he, he's also really interested in the fact that you have a party bus company. And I was like, okay. I'm kind of thinking to myself, all right, well, this might be a little bit better situation depending upon who it is. So I was like, who is it? And he was like, 2Chainz. And I was like, everything just kind of stopped for a minute. He was like, would you be interested in doing business with 2Chainz? And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, hell yeah, I'd be interested in doing business with 2Chainz. But I'm real calm and laid back. I normally really don't let people see that I'm as excited as I am. So I was like, I might. What's the details? And he was like, the BET Awards is coming up and all that good stuff, but we're gonna sit down with him, in a few weeks and go over everything, but he's really, really interested, in working with you. I think this will be a much better opportunity for you. So, we get off the phone, probably about a minute after that, and I'm just like, I remember literally like hanging the phone up, in jail. It's like a regular little payphone. I remember hanging the phone up and just like standing there for a minute and thinking like, damn, I might be opening up a spot with 2Chainz. And after that, I like skipped up to my cell and like was just laying there about to go to sleep. And it's like, dang, this thing really went from being like the worst thing that had happened to me in my life to basically put me in a position where I ended up learning about one of the best opportunities in my life. I pretty much had been in Clayton County Jail for about 3 weeks. So they finally get there to pick me up. It was like the wee hours in the night, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. And for anybody that's ever been extradited before, which I know most of y'all probably haven't, you actually had to ride in a paddy wagon where, like, you know, you're basically shackled to the roof of the paddy wagon, and then your feet are shackled to the floorboard. So, and you riding like this for like literally driving in a car would take me 4 hours to get to Nashville. It took us 2 days shackled in this same position like this. The officers feeding you, having to basically feed you as if, I'm like, all right, for a bad check, seriously? Anyways, long story short, you know, I had gotten out of jail, had gotten back to Atlanta, and about 4 or 5 days later, the realtor calls me again. He's like, hey, you know, 2Chainz is back. He's only gonna be back for a couple days. I've got a meeting with you, him, myself, and his realtor for tomorrow. You know, what time you're available. So we set the meeting up, and all that night, man, I could not sleep. And I'm not really a starstruck person, but it was more so the business deal on the table and how important this meeting would be for, you know, me, myself, my family, and basically the rest of my life. And so he strolls in a little bit after 12 and, you know, has this big smile on his face. And I would say, man, you know, shortly after he sat down, we just like immediately clicked. And I had always said to myself, you know, even though the Hookah Hideaway is small, you know, we only got 1,000 square feet, you know, we got a makeshift kitchen, we run out of deep fryers, etc. I was just like, you know, I'm gonna show him the numbers. You know, the numbers don't lie. So of course, when I did that, you know, he had the reaction that I was hoping he would have, which was pretty much, you know, if you were able to take something this small and turn it into this, you know, I can only imagine what you can do with something larger. So shortly after, we ended up going over to the spot that he owned right there on Peter Street. Ended up being located at 327 Peter Street, and looking around and just coming up with ideas. And it was the spot that would later be known as Escobar to everybody else, and caused me so many blood, sweat, and tears to go through. It took us 1.5 years to finally open, but here we are today.